Okay, it's 5 p.m., so we're going to call the meeting to order, and the first item is approval of the agenda. You will notice there's 2 closed sessions. That is correct. Is there anything else that needs to be changed or amended? Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Let's jump to or step up to the board meeting minutes. Let's see. You'll see that I'm sure you've had time to at least look over those, or hopefully.
So moved.
Okay. Got a motion?
Second.
Okay, I hear a second to approve those. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed to the meeting minutes? Okay. And that carries us directly into a closed session.
I move that we go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A1 to prevent disclosure of student records under General Statute 115C-402 and 20 U.S. Code 1232G. Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second to go into closed session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're in closed session. We're back in open session, and we're in the non-action portion of the meeting, and we have a CTE grant, and I believe Miss Lily, Andrea Lily's going to share something with us.
We just wanted to let everyone know that Beaufort County Schools, along with Beaufort Community College, North Carolina, NC Works, Region Q Workforce Development Board, Economic Developer Martin Johnson, under the umbrella of the Committee for 100, we applied for a Career and Technical Education Pathways Grant, and we were awarded that grant. That grant gives Beaufort County Schools and the college, Beaufort County Community College, $49,500 for Beaufort County Schools and $19,000 for the college. And this grant is going to provide additional salaries, professional development concerning career pathways for school counselors, teachers, and administrators at the secondary and post-secondary level, as well as counselors for NC Works. In addition, scholarships will be provided for middle and high school students in summer activities at BCCC, and all for advanced manufacturing. Other items to be provided in this grant include career software for middle schools, upgrade of CAD software at the college, Bcboe modules for middle school students, and money for advertising costs such as videos and printed material. That's all we wanted to let you know, that we were awarded that.
Thank you.
Any
Any questions, or other than thank yous?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was quick. That carries us to a capital update, and hopefully this will be less painful than what you're experiencing.
Yes, sir, thank you. I think Ms. Lisa Ford had put on board docs. There was one picture or 2 pictures concerning, 3 pictures concerning ed tech.
Do you want us to look at it?
That's been addressed, yes, sir.
Okay.
We put some bright signs on there to make sure they were warned of the incline, and we marked the cement, so they've been done.
Thank you so much, Stan.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
And then on my capital projects, dated 7/10/2017.
Which 85% completed work.
Correct, yes, sir. And that's basically, ask whatever, any questions y'all may have concerning the projects that are not completed or listed with anticipated completion dates from our contractors. Everything's looking good for the summer, and I'll keep you up on Washington High School. We have it back going again, have the old chiller back up running. We got it going last Thursday, before we left. Got it back up and going, so we're on a leg limping again, but we're waiting for the new machine to come in.
And when is all that?
It's all there.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
never mind.
Yes.
If it's on there somewhere.
Yep.
Which one? We use
Washington High School.
Cooling tower.
It's scheduled for delivery
18.
on the 17th. Brady will start work on the 24th, and then they plan to have it all completed by the 18th. There's a typo. That 8:48,
Yeah.
it's at 8:18.
Okay. Now, the only comment I even had, just hold people to those dates so we can, on these other things that are finishing up on the 21st or so, just get them done before school gets.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah,
We will
I
be
mean,
done.
but you
Yeah.
got plenty of buffer time in there, a little
That was our
time, but-
objective, to have it done when our
And
teachers
I
come
would
back. so-
imagine that Washington High School would love to know that it's going to be air conditioned when they get back.
Oh, yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Any additional questions?
Anybody have any questions about this? Anything on here? Well, I don't either, Stan, so I guess
Thank you.
you're ready, fair to go.
Hope you feel better.
Okay, we're going to move into the action portion, and the first item up is a Title I presentation. Greg Sink?
Mr. Chairman, I believe Lisa's given each of you a copy of the proposed Title I plan for next school year. I'm seeing you a little bit later than I normally do. Normally we receive what our planning allotment is around Easter, and this year we received that from DPI on June the 28th. The application is normally due on June 30th. Therefore, the application has been backed up by DPI into the 18th of August. So we have turned this one around about as quick as I've ever turned one around. We started work on it on the afternoon of the 28th, and it's here to you tonight for your review. A couple of highlights, and I will not talk all night, I promise. But we did receive an increase in the planning allotment this year, and it was a rather substantial increase of over $300,000. Now, we were pleasantly surprised in seeing that. At the same time, while we had an increase in Title I, we had a pretty significant decrease in Title II and Title III, and we're working to adjust and to make up with those shortfalls there. But we did have an increase. When I discovered that we had received this increase in funding, I know that it has been a concern of the board for several years that not all of our K-5 schools in the county have received funding through the program. So I spoke with Dr. Phipps, and in planning this application, our goal was to try to, number one, to make sure that we did not cut anything as far as district set-asides, or we did not cut any staff from any school allocations, but at the same time to try to bring Chocowinity Middle School on board, which was the final school with 5th grade in the county that was not served. This proposed budgeted application does that. The second page highlights the actual school allocations. The first page highlights the district allocations. At the same time, we're still able to set aside some money to assist with some district initiatives that Dr. Phipps and Andrea worked with, such as iReady. That was a surprise that we were able to continue doing that, so we were pleased that we could. And again, the biggest highlight, I guess, this year is that with the increased funding, it looks like we could add Chocowinity Middle on without adversely really affecting any of the other 7 schools. So with that, I'll be glad to take any of the questions that you have at this time.
Anyone have any questions? Go ahead. I don't know if there are questions. I just want to make a comment or to see if you understand. I understand when you put over here that they maintain their teachers, but they lose this, because
Yes.
I know there's other money to spend other than just, there was increases. Isn't that way? Isn't that why if we even have the same money, it doesn't go as far, because there's increases in salaries and things?
Well,
that have to be paid, right?
there was a raise this year, and I think it's great that teachers got a raise. In addition to the raise, the cost of hospitalization has increased for our staff for next year, and the retirement rate. I was telling someone just a minute ago now, when we take, for not just for Title I, but for any program in the school system, on any employee, when we take a look now at the Social Security rate and the retirement rate, when you add those two together, that is now at 24.78% on top of the salary. So when you have a first-year teacher with a bachelor's degree and makes $3,500 a month for 10 months, $35,000 annually. On top of that, you're also adding 24.78% in benefits and $5,869 in hospitalization. And if we budget 10 sick days for that employee, which by law we give them, you're now looking at an employee that costs a little over $50,000 a year. So even though some schools had an increase in their allocation, if they are choosing to keep the same number of employees, there's less spendable dollars for other things such as supplies and things like that.
Right, I got that. What is this column, the first one over there, says total enrollment? I was just comparing this to last year. Mm-hmm. When you say total, that's the total enrollment of the school.
Not counting preschool. You cannot add pre-K.
I understand.
Right.
And then you come in with the percentages to figure out the allocations and stuff.
The first column
some of the numbers are way lower than they were last year.
This is based on April data from DPI. We have to use the enrollment data that goes with the CEP data. Now, CEP, you'll remember, that's that really nice program that allows us to feed children at all those schools for free, and I think it's wonderful that we're going to be able to implement that every year. So those CEP students is the number of low income. Let's take Snowden, for example. Okay. In April of 2016, for the PMR report of April, Snowden in grades K through 8, not counting pre-K, enrolled 163 children. At that same time, of those 163 children, 145 were considered low-income students. Now, that does not mean they're free and reduced lunch. That means that they qualify for federal financial assistance through one of a couple of programs: temporary assistance to needy families and the supplemental nutritional assistance program. Their families qualify for that. But if we do look at the trend over the, I look back at some data from 20 years ago in 1997, the district's about 1,200 students lower than it was in K-12 about 20 years ago. That is correct.
When you look at all the things that says losing supplies, some loses 9, some, there's a couple of increases, but all the net loss in that comes up to $35,000. Is there any way that, with, I would say manipulate, is there any way you can work with, yeah, because that's not a good word, but is there any way to look at the way the formulas are for like CMS, new school coming on with 158?
Yes, sir.
All my intentions ever was to give them some help. Is there any way that we can absorb some of the $35,000 that we're losing in supplies at the other schools with a less amount going to CMS for the first year?
No.
So that we can't, I mean, why can't figure out how to do that?
The problem
Nobody
is
loses anything.
Well, the problem with that is, well, what you would have to do is you would have to, if you wanted to send additional monies out to the school, you would have to turn back to the first page and you'd have to cut something on the first page. Now, I see your question. For example, let's start with Bath at the bottom. Bath is funded at the absolute minimum level that we can fund them, because the minimum level we can fund, if we were paying for students at all 14 of the schools, is $375.27 a month. And we have historically funded Bath at the absolute minimum because they have had the lowest number as well as the lowest percentage of low-income students. Now, if we were to come along at Northeast, Mr. Chairman, if you look at that column in the middle, actual per pupil amount,
Right.
that is a multiplier that is multiplied by the number that you see in the number of LEA low-income students. I guess you could say column B. And
Right.
that's how we get that LEA amount. That's where that comes from.
Okay, so how does that actual PPA amount change from year to year? Because last year you at Bath, since you're using that one, you had 250 low-income students. This year you only got 193, but the dollar amount they're getting is exactly the same.
Right. Well, the dollar amount that they're getting is actually a little bit more. Bath actually has
I thought it
increased
said
about $5,000 from last year.
Yeah, you're right. It was $64,893 last year,
Right.
and so this year it's actually a little more.
Yes.
Even though they got less kids.
Well, they have less students, but also since you went CEP district-wide this year, we no longer have to use the 1.6 multiplier. Now, the
Okay.
1.6 multiplier we've used the last 2 years because some of the schools that we were funding in Title I were not CEP, and they were having to use their free and reduced numbers, but they were so much lower. The
Right.
feds think that's not fair to do that, so you multiply that by the 1.6.
Gotcha.
And correspondingly, that's why the minimum 375.27 is higher than it was last year.
Gotcha.
A good example, though, when you talk about Chocowinity Middle, and I understand exactly where you're coming from, saying this is a new school with nothing to
Yeah.
lose. Is there any way, because what you're asking, is there any way that we can allocate less money?
And
to
then
that
everybody
school?
gets hurt. Everybody
Right,
gets
I
some of what they
understand.
got.
The
And they would
issue-
end up with $123,000 they never had.
Right. The issue that we have at Chocowinity Middle School, actually, rather, if you look to the very far column to the right, the percent of low-income students, CEP, now that's different than the number of low-income students. Chocowinity Middle, as well as Chocowinity Primary, in the last 2 years, have seen not just an increase in the number of low-income, but their percentage has increased. So much so that they're now higher than than John Small. John Small dropped a couple of places this year. So if you were to say, is there a kind of a loser in this scenario? John Small probably
Right,
is, to the tune of about $18,000 in supplies. However, they still have money on the table for supplies. It's not all of their supplies, and they still have all the funds to fund the 4 existing teachers that they had. One other thing that we do in the summer, Mr. Chairman, is this. Now, these numbers are based on the same individuals being in that position as were in it last year. Now, once the budget's finalized and we have hired all of our new folks and we know who is retired, I then can sit down with the finance office, and sometimes we can place some people into Title I who don't cost as much. Now, when we do that, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
what will happen is for that school, if you're having to spend only $35,000 on the salary instead of 40, not only do they get 5, they get 5,000 plus 24.78%.
All I was trying to do was just try to help everybody get what they already had and still help CMS. I mean, I was just thinking there had to be a way to work it out, but, I mean, that's what you gotta do then.
I have a question.
Yes.
PD stands for professional development, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that is that a required amount to be spent based on the percentage of money that they're getting, or is
No,
that
ma'am.
a chosen amount? I guess my question is,
historically
can
what
a
they have.
principal choose to do something differently with the money that is allocated for, like if they're gonna get I'm looking at John Small, they're gonna get $10,000 for or less for professional development? Because you got decrease / maintain.
The maintain was, they maintained 10,000 in professional development, and what I did.
And they're gonna lose 18,000, so do they
Each
have
class.
to spend the entire 10,000?
No, no,
Or
ma'am.
can they use that to make up the difference
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
loss of supplies?
They certainly
So
can.
that'll be a school-based decision?
Yes, ma'am.
With the principal, sit team, whoever's making those decisions?
That's correct. And Ms. Walker, what I did was I just put in what they did last year, and I tried to keep things as similar as to where they were last year. But certainly, if the principal, with advisement from the school improvement team at that school or any other, decided, you know what, let's take this 10,000 and make up some of the supplies we lost, we can certainly do that. Likewise, a school that had an increase, like Chalkawinty Primary, for example, even with the salaries of their teachers increasing, they had enough of an increase that they'll still have more spendable dollars for other things. Now, I just put that in tutors because the principal there has historically used that in the past, but she could say that she doesn't want to do that anymore.
Okay.
She would have the choice to do that. So it's based on where they have historically spent the funds.
And that leads me to my last comment. You've done a lot of work, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
This is the actual sheet that you gave us last year?
Yes.
And remember when you asked out to the principals what we actually doing with the budget, because the board requested to know that?
Yes.
And you gave me,
Yes,
not
I
me,
remember that.
you gave everybody.
Right.
What, each school, how they were using it?
Yes.
The question I have, because I don't remember at the time,
Mm-hmm.
who actually, which department, who actually works with the schools in developing this plan? Or are we saying that we send you $200,000 and it's entirely up to the school to sit team at that school to decide what they want to do with that money?
Upon advisement from the
That
district.
doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the federal law is very clear on it, actually. Once the funds goes out to the school, the purpose of Title I is for those decisions to be made by the folks closest at the school level by a decision of school-based stakeholders. In North Carolina, traditionally, what schools use is their school improvement team. A requirement of that also is to have a parent involved with that process. Here in Beaufort County, though, I believe the majority of our schools, they work with our curriculum department. Many of our principals do a really good job with that in order to implement some of the things that they are working with. I noticed we were talking about a principal a moment ago that was in here a little bit earlier, and she works very close as far as with making those decisions. But ultimately, under federal law, it's up to the principal with authority of the team. Now, part of our job as oversight, if we see something that is fishy, or if we see something that this is not adding up, yes, then we step in, I immediately make the superintendent aware of it. I do.
And I know I already knew some of that. I knew that it's up to them to make the decision. What I'm saying, and looking at my curriculum director here too, surely you guys have some input into how they spend $200,000 to $300,000 in schools. Hopefully. And if you don't, I certainly hope somebody starts having some input, whether the final decision is made then. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm leading to this. I want you to come back to this board in the next few months and bring what those plans are. We want to see how they're spending this $1 million in our schools, and especially CMS. I want to see their plan, because if we're going to send them $158,000, I do not want $158,000, and hopefully the board feels somewhat this way, on things that they're already doing. This is for something different to help move them forward, so I want to see what their plan is, how they plan on spending $158,000.
Has to be
Does that make
supplemental.
any sense to anybody?
Has to be supplemental under federal law. It
Right,
has to be
right.
over and above the effort that they're doing
Right.
with state and local dollars.
Right.
In other words, it cannot supplant what they're doing with state and local dollars. It
But-
has to be over and above.
And I agree, but if we don't see it as a board, we don't know it.
Well, I can, once we work with the principals, because what I will do, once the application is approved, and then there's quite a bit of work that I have to do with the state application online. But once we sit down and once the principals tell me how they would propose to spend those money, it's just a budget printout. I can get that to Dr. Phipps. He'll be glad to get that to you.
Because they're hiring new teachers at CMS, and I see it says it could be as many as 3. I'd like to know that they've done that and what they're using them for.
Or they could choose to do some other
Or they
things,
can
too.
choose to do something else. That's
That's right.
why I want to see the plan. I want to see what they chose.
Sure.
But your office can provide them guidance on how to stay within the legal ramifications.
We all, everything, part of my job is if approving purchase orders or staff is to make sure that they are within the legal guidelines of federal law. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not a curriculum expert. I'll leave that to Dr. Phipps and Ms. Lilly. They're the curriculum experts.
We have a curriculum expert right here.
That's right, I'm not. I'm just a bureaucrat. So my job is to get it out there.
You've been called a lot of things.
I didn't know you were a bureaucrat.
Well, that's what some people
Most of them
think. But at any rate, my job is to make sure that we're following the law and that if we're audited, that we're in compliance with federal and state guidelines. In no way would I ever attempt to be a curriculum expert, although I do know a little bit about it, but that's not my area of
Well,
expertise.
thank you for this. This gives us a lot of information, and it'll let us, if everybody needs to hold on to it, so we'll have a point of reference when you come back to tell us what was spent.
What the plan was.
One thing I would mention, this was an increase, and I have spoken with several Title I directors in the state that had an increase, but I've also spoken with some that did not experience an increase. This is based on the poverty percentages from the U.S. Census Bureau from 2015. And we had a storm here during that time, and anytime there's a hurricane, the poverty numbers do go up. I tell you that and caution you just in knowing that while, yes, we had an increase this year, I have no guarantee that it would be the same next year or that it could be a decrease. So just a word of caution about
You
that.
never know. Any last questions? If not, what's the board's pleasure on this plan?
Move approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Yeah, got a motion and a second. I'll give you one last time for any discussion. No? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you for all your hard work. Have a good one.
All right, thank you.
Field trips. I don't-
We have one, and it's Washington, D.C. trip in April, and Principal Nixon from P.S. Jones thought this had been sent in, or there was an oversight of getting the approval. This is something they've done for a couple of years. It involves a charter bus and a travel company. They met technically in May, and it allows parents to have a payment plan. It's been a wonderful trip, a positive experience, and we just want to make sure that we were official. I wanted to bring it back in front of you so there weren't any surprises.
Is that 8th grade?
It's 8th grade. It's been a great trip for me.
Everything's
Yeah.
done.
So I just
Move
want to get approval.
approval.
So here a second. Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. That carries us to another closed session.
I move that we go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A1 to prevent disclosure of confidential personnel files under General Statute 115C-321.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to go in closed session. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. We're in closed session. Could I see just the board? We're back in open session, and first item is to approve the personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the personnel agenda that was just discussed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Have two other motions I'd like to entertain.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the contract for Superintendent Don Phipps to extend his contract to June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any comments? We haven't asked him if he wants to stay.
I hope he'll stay.
It'll be an honor.
We won't ask him. We'll move right on, and all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I got one other motion I'd like to entertain.
I'd like to make a motion to extend the contract for Assistant Superintendent Mark Dorn to June 30th, 2021.
What in the world are we thinking?
I'll second it with no, I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're also not going to ask him, does he want to stay around? We're just going
Gladly
to take a
happy
vote.
to take
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Just make a note that Carolyn second.
That's right. So,
I want that written in the
I
contract.
have-
I want that on paper.
that's right. So now you can always hold that against him. Calendar updates. Anybody would like to explain what we're looking at here on the calendar to us?
We've got the board retreat on the 18th. Notice that it's at Ed Tech, and this is an opportunity to be able to have principals in front of, and I'm going to have them go through, and what I'm asking them to do is share with you what they're doing with their school improvement teams this year, and then have an opportunity just to have some informal conversation back and forth. The meetings, I think there are 5 Tuesdays in August, so the dates there will be August the 1st will be our work session, and the 15th will be the regular board meeting. And then as we normally do, we have a special called meeting, which is very brief, the day that teachers come back, just to do any final contracts. And I'd like to ask if your schedule would allow to do another leadership or instructional services retreat on the 17th. There's quite a bit that we're doing with the new adoption and some things we've got going on with literacy, and our curriculum team would like to be able to share with you without having to do it in the confines of and be struggling for time in a regular meeting. But if we could do something on the 17th of August before teachers come back.
17th.
What's the day of the week is that?
I think that'll be a Thursday.
17th is on a Thursday.
I cannot meet during the day on a Thursday.
Can we do a 5:30 or 5 o'clock?
Well,
Five's good.
It would need to be a later afternoon meeting for for us too, so. Is 5 too early for anybody? I mean, I know we got working folks here out of town.
What day are you talking about?
Thursday, the 17th of August.
That's a bad this.
I am paying, I'm trying to look at my calendar too.
He's using technology over there.
Yeah, that's fine. 5 o'clock?
That's what I was asking, is 5 or 5:30, which is?
Either one.
Okay.
5's for.
He says 5. Okay, can you send it back out to us? Okay. Any board member updates?
No, before you leave that,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, is it possible, Dr. Phipps and Mark, that we can start our committee meetings back with the minority hiring? I gave you a break, because you were like having so much budget fun going on.
We were.
So,
What, is that the first day of school?
I'm thinking probably, maybe the, July. What about the 26th or the 27th of July?
I'll be out of town.
Both times?
Yes, sir.
Both days?
Leave it on the 26th. and-
Well, if I could-
That's the only days I'm taking,
I
that
could
Thursday,
skip
Wednesday and
Wednesday.
Thursday.
Okay, what about you, Mark?
I will be here on Wednesday. I can do it on the 26th.
That's fine, that's fine. I'm just getting a lot of calls about it.
Sure.
I don't want people lose interest.
What time?
What time would be, 5?
We normally do it at 5.
Yeah, 5 is
okay?
fine.
Can
5
you
is
send it
fine.
out to us, Lisa, so we'll have it? Okay.
It's on the 26th.
All right. Now, any board member updates? Superintendent updates?
No, sir, we're just in the throes of summer, which is very busy for us, and looking forward to getting things set up for everyone to come back in
Okay.
not too long from now.
Okay, if not,
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. And a motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.